Hello, my name is Tim Ryan. Welcome to the Tim and Jen show. Sitting here with my badass co-host, wife, best friend, business partner, her.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Jimenez-Ryan, and thank you everyone for tuning in today. We have a rad guest.
Yeah, we'll get to that in a few minutes.
I've been trolling, and I'm really excited about because he's been motivating me a lot with his sayings and stuff.
And to get out and do some more acting.
Yeah, I know he has inspired me to want to act again. You know, I had these jobs last year that COVID happened and I couldn't do the jobs. And so then I was like, you know, I'm not.
You had 3 movies and a TV pilot.
Yeah, I mean,
and I got a role in the TV pilot.
Yeah, I mean, it was
a lead.
I know. You're going to play the bad dad. But
I could play that very well.
No,
Ask all my children.
Like, you're the villain, but you loved your kid in the show. But then I was like, you know what? I'm just going to concentrate on trying to like survive, right? Like, because we've all been in such survival mode for so long. And then it's been kind of hitting on me, like weighing on me again. And I've been praying about it. And like, I really feel that I'm going to now pursue acting again. And also I got asked to do stand-up, which is crazy. And I'm not going to get that much into it, except that I got asked to do stand-up. I'm thinking about it the other day.
All we do is tell drug and drinking stories.
I mean, like
there's some funny shit there.
Yeah, I mean, like there's a lot there. But anyways,
and you also are participating in a documentary.
I am. I'm shooting a docu series this week. So I guess I am back into the Hollywood world right now. And you know, I'm just so glad that we have this platform to keep carrying the message, to talk about health and wellness, to, you know, just talk with other people who have been through it, you know, and get through it. And how do we get through it? And sometimes we just don't even get through it yet. And then we eventually get through it. We talk about that. I do want to talk about something that happened last week, because I like to tell myself.
Fuck you, jacked. You're jacked.
I just haven't talked to you in a couple hours.
Talk to me. You live with me 24/7. You're either yelling or vacuuming.
I know, but I was like, I went and I did like my hair. It was spending time with girls.
It was very peaceful.
It was very peaceful for me too.
What do you want to talk about?
But I do want to talk about this moment that I had. I like to tell on myself good and bad.
Oh, this is classic. So hold on to this.
Wait. So last week, we're going to go see Chelsea, who is one of the producers on the show. And I was so excited, but we had
we've been working with Chelsea for over a year and we've never met her. She's based out of Texas.
And then we had another thing to do earlier. So I put the whole hair and makeup shit on, right? And that takes a while. So I decided we had some time and I was like, babe, I'm going to go do my little walk, right? I walk between 45 minutes to an hour and a half. And I, you know, go out and it's hot. Like the day before, it wasn't so hot in LA. And I start sweating and I'm wearing makeup, right? But I'm going to tell you this. So I have blondes. I call them blondes. They're grays. And I hadn't colored my blondes, right? Let me pretend. And in a hot minute, and like it had been a few weeks. And so my hair was growing. It was all gray. And my mom was like, Jenny, you know, don't damage your hair. And hairdressers keep saying, don't color your hair every week. So it's going to damage it. So my mom decided to buy me hairspray color, right?
Like who?
Wait, hold on. So I decided to use it, right? And then I put my whole face on, right? And it's all found like makeup, powders, layers. And I go walking and I start sweating. And all of a sudden I'm like, uh-oh, and I'm dripping sweat. And I'm like, oh shit. And I come in the house, like after I'm done, I'm like, babe, I'm sweating. Do I look like Rudy Giuliani? And like literally, I kid you not, I could have like a chicken hanging out of my hair.
Black streaks going down her face.
So I fix it. And then I put more makeup on. So we go to dinner, we go to this fancy place in Beverly Hills and all this stuff. And I'm like there trying to be super cute to like super cute Chelsea. And, you know, and she's young and hot. And I'm like, yeah, I'm cool. I'm young. I'm hot. Not really. I'm in my 40s and I'm young, but, ish. And so I'm like, yeah, so I had a Rudy Giuliani moment today. Like all of a sudden the hair starts dripping, like the hair color. And she's like, really? She looks at me, she's like, oh, you still have it all over.
Yeah.
I had Rudy Giuliani'd myself. And I
was offering to sell the picture to Entertainment Online and all these places. I think my top offer was $500,000 and she wouldn't let me do it.
Do you know what a moron I look like? Like, I mean, like seriously, it was so funny. I couldn't stop laughing about it. So now I'm telling like my girlfriends and our friends, like what happened. So now I'm sharing it to all you guys. But, yeah.
Nice.
Talk about like trying to be cute and then it not working out. Like God has a
So
funny
if she
sense of humor.
decides at night I need to do my blondes,
Yeah.
just go ahead and do them because
No,
we're
I-
not going in public.
Yeah.
or anything like that.
No, my hair's dyed.
So who do we got coming up on the show? Hick, pronounce his last name.
Cheramie.
Cheramie, which is
Cheramie, honey.
French Cajun, which actually means dear friend. Hick is a bayou boy, an actor, a recovering alcoholic and drug addict, 43-year-old who had been working in the oil fields, might do it part-time, but has made the jump into acting.
Okay, wait. Not only has he, I'm gonna let you finish reading that bio, but every time we're watching something, there he is.
There's Hick showing
Yeah.
up. We were watching Your
Your
Honor,
Honor.
and there's Hick as a bartender.
Yeah.
And, but we started following each other on social media. I love his quotes. I love everything he's
He
doing.
tells such great, profound things behind every photo, and you have a beautiful, hot lady that's in all your photos. I can't wait to talk about.
Couple kids,
yeah.
and doing the deal here. Hick, welcome to the show, brother. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you for having me. I'm truly humbled and honored to be able to speak with the both of you tonight. You're
We're
two
honored
amazing, beautiful.
We're
human
honored to
beings,
have you
and,
on the show, a bayou boy.
Mm. Thank you for being on.
So you can skin a buck, you can run a trot line.
Yeah, actually, I can. I did that a lot when I was young. I don't really. I kind of grew out of that, and I'm more of a hippie, man. So,
Are ya?
Actually, that's kind of like part of my story. Growing up in that environment, I always felt like a little different. My dad brought me up, in a lot of things from like the 60s and early 70s. I'm 43, so when he kind of stayed living in those 2 decades for a long time. So like I was a little different. I was more of I did do those things, but it was not the path I chose to go because my culture where I'm from, it's about all those things, and it's about a lot of drinking. There's a lot of drinking in our culture. You start at a very young age.
Let's pause here. You are considered French Cajun.
Yes.
So I went to college in Monroe, Louisiana. So I spent.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I lived on Bayou Desert and went down because they had the best intercollegiate water ski team in the country. I was there 86 to 89, but all I did was party and accomplish nothing. But I will tell you, some of the best learning lessons of my life were being 17 years old and moving to Monroe, Louisiana. I mean, you learn about the culture. Yes, ma'am. No, ma'am. Yes, you learn your manners real quick. I've never heard of a blue law to where everything shuts down on Sunday. You couldn't buy liquor. You couldn't go to a store. You'd have to drive to Mississippi to get booze. But tell us what it's like being a French Cajun, what the culture's like, and what town were you raised in Louisiana?
So I'm about 5 hours south of where, so I'm maybe 35 minutes from the Gulf of Mexico.
Wow.
So I'm in a place called Lafourche Parish. And Lafourche Parish is Bayou Lafourche, and what it is, it's one of the main deltas that actually go out, into the Gulf of Mexico that separate from the Mississippi River. So my community is a big based on fishing and oil field. So a lot of fishing as far as shrimp and crabbing, and then oil field is, we have a lot of maritime industry companies, a lot of these big supply boats that take supplies out to these different platforms that we and assets offshore. So I grew up in that area. So like where you were, that's considered like way north though.
Yeah.
Like they talk different from us. Some of our Louisiana culture has changed a little bit. It's very diverse here because you have like these, Cajuns in southern Louisiana, and you kind of move up to the west and you have Acadiana, and then you have, you move towards the city and you have a lot of Creole, and you have, more to New Orleans. And so it's just like this one big gumbo.
That's exactly what it is.
People with but one thing that we love to do is have fun, and unfortunately that fun is there's a lot of alcohol involved. I mean,
Yeah.
we have Jazz Fest, and we have all these different events, and I can remember in my community drinking at I was a young kid, like my uncles would give me a can of like Schaefer,
Sure.
like Schaefer Light or like a Miller Pony or at a young age, and they thought that was cute, for us to like drink. And I think I had like my first like real drink on my own. I think I was maybe 11 or 12. Was like a cup of jungle juice, and we have Mardi Gras. So a lot of that's something that's big in our area. So growing up down there it's a very very cultural. It's a community that likes to have a good time, and whoever visits, like you're guaranteed to have a good time, and you're guaranteed to eat a lot. So cuisine is big in our area, and different festivals of cuisine, and so it's a really really beautiful community. It's a community that people always have each other's back in, but we like to party. Sure, like many other communities, but I think we start a little young.
Well, I mean, that was a culture, especially in Louisiana. I mean, it was one of the reasons I went there. The drinking age was still 18, but they used to have these drive-in margarita huts, but all we did was catch crawfish, have crawfish boils, all they did is have parties, and you're constantly eating catfish or this. But that was a whole, we would drive to New Orleans to party for 2 days, or we'd go here. But it was interesting because I knew a couple people from college from your area, and the dialect they spoke, and they would be having, it's like Jennifer and her mom having a conversation. Half is in Spanish, half is in English. But then I'd hear these Cajuns and they're talking in their own friggin' language. Is that mainly a French dialect?
Yeah, it's so quick. I'll make this real quick history lesson. When my grandmother was coming up in school back in the 20s and 30s, they only knew how to speak French. I was lucky enough to be raised by my great grandmother, grandmother, and father, who still spoke French. So when my grandma in school at that time, like they were punished for speaking French. They wanted them to learn English. I mean, they were whipped and put on their knees, and they couldn't speak French, and that's all they knew how to speak in their house. So they had been speaking that since the 1700s, since the Cajuns started really coming into Louisiana, and especially here in the South. My family actually came through this island called Grand Isle with a lot of Jean Lafitte's supply boats. A lot of people from Louisiana come from like Nova Scotia, where they were exiled out in Nova Scotia, and then they moved down, and they would have to leave down and come down here. But they were actually punished. And when I got to kindergarten, I was actually still speaking French. I've lost a lot of that through the losing, generational, through the generation of like losing my great grandmother, losing my grandmother, and I lost my father a couple months ago, and he was one of the last people that I used to really listen to speak French, and I would be able to speak a little bit back with him, but I understood it all. So yeah, that's. And what's kind of crazy is you were talking about the whole dialect. It's like listening to someone else speak. Is we say a lot of weird shit, man. Like, our dialect's like real weird, right? So like my partner now, she makes fun of the way doesn't make fun of it. She thinks it's cute. I say the number 3, 3. So it's a real flat like accent, and when I get worked up, it really comes out. Like
when she gets worked up, it comes out, and it comes out in Italian, Spanish, French, and English.
Yeah.
She speaks 4 languages, so I just get this cluster bomb of all these things, and I just shake my head and smile.
But you said something that was he gets it. He for sure gets it. But you said it's a cultural thing. Like I feel that I so relate to what you're saying. Like speaking Spanish, like I learned that was my first language. But when my grandparents came to America with me, and then they left at 6.5 or 7 years old, I got so mad I stopped speaking. Then I was like, I want to punch myself in the head for it. But then my father passed away, and my mom and I speak Spanglish. So I still speak Spanish, but not all the time. And I really regret not speaking more of my first language. But the cultural thing, like I remember in Argentina, like everyone drank and had fun. I remember, drinking is in every group that I see, or I hear stories from other people. It's like, that family thing, or that where you grow up, and drinking, it comes hand in hand, and yet in a place like New Orleans, everyone knows, or, they know that's a party place.
Absolutely.
And that's what they equate that to, right? So how do you, like, you start drinking? I drank at 12 on my own for the first time, but I had drank a little cups of drinks and, as a child and stuff, but my first personal drink was at 12, and boom, like, eventually the progression got huge, but it didn't happen for me overnight, like they gradually got worse, but quick, I mean, not like 10 years later, but it got quick. It gradually got worse.
But in your industry, there was drinking and drugs. I mean, I'm thinking with Hick, because you got people that are working the oil rigs and the boating. They're all drinking. Right? I mean, they're drinking at lunch, you're drinking after work, you sit on the job site for 8 hours, drinking, you sleep 3, you get back up and do it again. I mean, that's a culture you were raised in.
Yeah, it's totally a culture I was raised in, and you look at, my both my grandfathers, my father, my mother, everyone had some kind of, if it was not alcoholism, it was drug addiction, pharmaceutical addiction, and it was just, he's surrounded by it, and definitely though alcohol. Where I'm from, it's just it's a staple for some people, and it's around me all the. I mean, it's still around me. There's events that I gotta be at. There's things I gotta go to. There's certain charity events I go to, or I was at a movie wrap party the other night and open bar. And I was I prefer like my glass bottle like Dr. Peppers. And, I don't do non-alcoholic beer. I didn't drink for taste. I drank. I drank. Because I don't want to feel shit, right? In these cocktails, and I'm not all into that. And more power to you if you're doing that. Like and when I go to these events, I make sure what my motives are for being at these events. And people ask me that a lot. They're like, well, how can you be around this, and how could you be around that? It's like, well, my motives aren't to go there and drink and get, fucked up. My motives are to go there and I might be involved in a charity, or I know that we just did this movie, and I haven't seen the cast since we filmed, and it was a wrap party, so I wanted to see people. So it can be tricky for some, not being spiritually fit, but I've been pretty blessed, and I've been pretty lucky to know what my motives are for going places like that. And I remember almost 7 years ago when I first stepped into the French Quarter sober. And I was actually, the only reason I did was I was in treatment with a friend of mine, and he actually got a job in the French Quarter, which didn't turn out good. But I was in the CBD in New Orleans taking care of something else, and I went walking to the French Quarter to see him where he was working, and that's what my motives were going. But man, it was wild, because that was the first time in 24 plus years maybe that I had been in that environment sober.
So let's talk about that. What was your progression? Were you more of an alcoholic, or were drugs involved as well? And what was the catalyst for you to say, I need to get some help 7 years ago?
So it's crazy, man, because at the age of like 4 or 5 years old, my mother was a drug addict also, and she lost her battle in 2012.
Sorry,
and I'm sorry about your father.
Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate it. He that man was a big part of my recovery. The times that I tried to get sober. But I remember being about 4 or 5 years old, and I had this procedure done with my ears. I tubes or something in my ears, and the doctor had gave her codeine for me, and I literally would like finish a bottle. And she shared this with me later on, because my mom had abandoned me when I was young, and we kind of ended up reuniting over drug use, which was just such a terrible thing. But I'm glad I got to spend that time with her. But I would cry for more, and I really, none of this hit me until I had went to treatment and actually sat down and talked about what was going on with me. And I kind of went back, and some of my mother had admitted to. She was like, "Yeah," she's like, "I'd have to go back to the doctor, get you some more." She's like, and you would cry for it. You'd cry more. So I think like, for some reason at an early age, I kind of knew what that ease and comfort was like. So I guess around 8 or 9, I was, and after that, I guess I just remember that happening, and she verified it, and 8 or 9, like she was saying, you were saying, people give you a little sip here, a little sip there, uncles, and, partying, and, you had this family get together. Oh, take a sip. They think it's funny. They think it's cute. And, I can remember feeling kind of like lightheaded and more comfortable and having more fun and running around more. And when I was 11 or 12 years old, I had my first like drink, like it was mine. Someone gave it to me. They're like, here, this is yours. And I was actually at a Mardi Gras parade, and all these floats were like lining up before they actually get on the road. And I had some of my friends' parents riding on the floats, and they had this big old cooler of jungle juice. And they handed me one of those plastic Mardi Gras cups, and they were like, here's a drink for you. This is yours. And I remember like drinking it, and I remember feeling like really good. I was like, well, and at that time being 12, back in '86, my father had battled alcoholism, and he had went to treatment. So I knew I wasn't supposed to be doing that. Like I knew it was wrong, but man, it made me feel good. And from then on, as a teenager, I experimented with, to me, it's like, I talked to some people and they're like, oh my God, we didn't have that in high school. But like for me, it was like mushrooms, weed, and LSD, and a little coke here, a little, just trying different pharmaceuticals, Zambor, the cocktails and
Sure.
I think it was later on when I started really relying on it to like live life on life's terms, like live life on life's terms, whatever the fuck that
It
was.
wasn't fun anymore. It was like survival.
It wasn't fun anymore. And there was a period of my life, and I stayed pretty, I was doing progressed to like heroin in the late '90s and early 2000s. I was living in Seattle. I was living in a place called Everett, Washington, but I was working in Redmond, Washington, and a Nintendo, and I was doing a lot of heroin. And I came down and I went to my first treatment center, and I stayed clean for about, and I was doing other things, but heroin at that time was my thing. I stayed clean for about 3, 4 months, and then I started partying again and whatnot. And I think I moved back to New Orleans in the early 2002 maybe range, and still drinking. And I'd never seen alcohol really as an issue, right? Because it was just so normalized growing
Sure.
up. I can get it at the store, and I can, but my problem is like I didn't know when to freaking stop. Like I would do that, and then that would get me into other shit, whatever, crack, heroin, whatever I can get my hands on. And I stayed like pretty, I guess, actively using to where my life was somewhat manageable on the outside, but like on the inside, it obviously, wasn't. I was a very damaged soul. Um, so going back a little bit into that drug use, my mom abandoned us when I was like in the 4th grade, and then my dad raised us, and he was a recovering alcoholic. She went on to do other drugs, and I'll get to kind of her and where her and I met. But you know, I remember at a time in my life where like a drink here and there was cool. I had just had my first daughter. We kind of left New Orleans. I was living up in a place called Asheville, North Carolina, and I went there and lived for about 5 years. And it was a real mellow hippie community. So I was drinking, smoking a lot of pot, and things were kind of like good. And then I picked up pharmaceuticals again.
Yeah.
And that whole opiate thing, so it was a lot of Roxy's and up in the mountains there, and I became physically and mentally dependent on it, to the point to where like I couldn't function without it, and I had knew better from my heroin. It's like I knew better the whole time, but I had really never, I guess, looked within myself and like really seen what the hell was hurting me so much. So I ended up doing that, and I went through a divorce. I ended up having a son, and I went through a divorce, and then that's when it kind of like took off. Just when I thought like, man, I had been at the bottom. I had been at the bottom, being homeless for a little while in Seattle and doing whatever. I actually went through a divorce, and I moved back to Louisiana, and I reunited with my mother. And my mother was a pain management patient, and my mother had like good doctors. And so I was coming into this relationship with her, trying to like
Get some pills.
it's yeah, man. Let's like reunite over pills and let's fix this relationship over pharmaceuticals. And she would get a ridiculous amount, and I became addicted for I guess I was addicted for 24 years, but really hard on the pharmaceuticals, which blew my mind because I was choosing that before heroin, I was choosing that before everything, and then it got kind of tricky because when I was dope sick, I realized that liquor helped.
Yeah.
I realized that liquor helped me from being dope sick to an extent,
Right.
right? Because you can have all the pills you want, they don't last, right? Like I can literally say, okay, I got a whole like a normal person has this, and I'm like, well, I got 5 times this, so this is definitely gonna last me a month. In like 2 weeks,
Gone.
Gone.
it's gone. Like we trick ourselves into thinking that we'll space in this bargaining bullshit or whatever. So I met with her, and it was I want to say from 2008 until 2011. It was a really bad time for me. I thought that I had been at my worst, and I thought that I had been, it was this, everybody says it's rock bottom of the barrel, whatever they want to call it. And I remember my father, God bless him, had came get me so many times. I was in Lafayette, Louisiana, and we lived down in South Louisiana. And I would get tired. I'd be like, I want to go home. And I'd try to kick it, and he'd take me home, and he'd bring me to detox, and then I'd leave the detox, and it was just this. Y'all know the game. This back and forth.
Vicious cycle. Yeah.
That vicious cycle that becomes normal.
Back and forth of this insanity, trying to get these different results, and I'm just doing the same like shit. So what happened is one day, I'll never forget this day, and it just started a whole different journey for me into addiction. But I remember one day I woke up at my mother's house, and we were living in a really bad place, and I remember going to the mirror and not really knowing who I was anymore. And I think I weighed like 140 pounds.
Wow.
And it was bad. So I remember calling my father. Hey, you know what? As many times as I cried wolf, that man would come and get me. So I remember calling my father, and I was like, look, I said, I'm gonna do it this time. I said, I want to go home. And I just thought in my mind that if I can get through the dope sickness, right, that I would be okay. But like not working on any shit that I really had to work on.
Right.
Nothing internally. Yeah.
Yeah. So I went home with him, and I set up. I didn't know I was really setting a boundary with my mother at that time, but I did. I was like, you know what? Like, no more contact, no more. Like I got to work on me. And so I thought working on me was like cold turkey, right? Cold turkey dope sick. And y'all know what that's like. So I think I was 30 something days into it, man. And I just didn't feel right. I'm like, this is still, and then I think I got to like my 39th party a day. So over a month and something. And I just didn't feel right. And I realized that I really never knew how to feel. So one morning, I
That's powerful.
I walked, I mean, I just never knew, I just never knew how to feel. And I'll get to how like I feel everything now. But I walked to a local grocery store that I worked as a bag boy as a teenager at. And I bought a 12-pack of, into my 40th day of being dope sick, a 12-pack of Ice House beer, right? His beer, whatever, I drank it. And I could get into the days, into the months, and where that 12-pack led me. It led me to another 12-pack, then it led me to, man, I was drinking bottles of Night Train. I was, whatever I get my hands on. And that led into like 5 straight years of alcoholism at its finest, to where like my pancreas is shutting down. They're like, you're gonna die, I'm having all these tests run on me, and they're like, if you don't quit, you're gonna die, DUIs, whatever it may be. And I was like literally just drinking myself to death. I mean, if I would cough up a shot of vodka, which it would be back into the bottle, I would just continue drinking it. Like I was not wasting that alcohol.
And people,
that's how I felt about cocaine.
Yeah, people don't understand. I mean, if you're a hardcore alcoholic or drug addict, I mean,
the last thing an alcoholic wants to do is go through withdrawals.
Yeah,
I mean, the last thing is too much. I mean, no.
When you were talking about vodka or alcohol helped you with kicking opiates, I can remember being dope sick and I tried drinking vodka. I threw it up. So I got a big syringe and I just shot the vodka up. And boy, does that burn like a son of a bitch. But that's what we do. So when did you ultimately go to treatment then the last time?
Yeah. So, I mean, like I'm sure y'all can relate, you try so much on your own and we just realize like our way don't fucking work. Like it never does, we wouldn't be where we are if our way worked. So yeah, I drank heavily for those 5 years and trying to quit on my own. And you were saying like not wanting to withdraw, like withdrawing off of opiates is like you wish you were dead. Alcohol, you die.
Yeah, no, it's true. I think that's very key that you say this, because I was going to mention something after you were talking right now. I was going to say, I think it's important for anyone who's out there listening that knows like, okay, so I drink a lot and I can't stop. Okay, well, you can't stop alone. I think it's important. There's a difference. Like, I don't believe everyone needs to go to treatment. I'm not a treatment, like go to treatment. I'm not that person, but I do firmly believe certain types of people, chronic relapsers, alcoholics that are heavily, heavy alcoholic, benzos, you need detox. And
definitely
how you found that, maybe it's from your father being the one who broke the cycle, is a miracle.
So what's crazy is my father actually stayed a dry drunk until the day he died. He went to treatment. He got sober. He had like 2 relapses, I want to say, from 86 until I think one of his last where he drank. It was this one time he drank and he realized he couldn't drink again. So he stopped. But like, he ever worked on the inside of, the work it takes for us to strive every day and live life on life's terms with the challenges and the trauma we may have been through. And it was something my father, I don't think, ever really got to get. But what did open my eyes was the many times I did try to stop. It wasn't my health. It wasn't my children. Because I wouldn't have done the shit when my first child was born. I stopped. I never did it again if my kids were so important, right? It was my father being an alcoholic and my mother being a drink, learning my lesson that way. I was actually on December 14th of 2014. I was sitting in a garage. I had a good job. I was in a relationship. The outside stuff was looking okay, but I was an alcoholic, right? A miserable person, a miserable sick human. And I was sitting in a garage alone and I wanted to quit so bad. It was like 8 or 9 o'clock in the morning. I called into work sick, which that's a sign right there. And I was just drinking like straight vodka, early in the morning. I think I started at 5 that morning because I wake up and I'd start. And then, the only time I wouldn't drink when I was at work, but I was like this all day long, shaking and stuff. And I remember walking into the house, and it was like right before Christmas, because it was December 14th, and all my kids' Christmas presents were wrapped up. And I remember like thinking like I needed so much help, and I never had felt so alone in that moment. You would think it was when I was putting a needle in my arm on the side of the road or on the bridge or sleeping on a freaking park bench or getting food out of the dumpster, but it was right there where I actually had things on the outside. So I think I believe at that point that my soul was like crying its loudest. And I walked in and I looked at the Christmas gifts and I remember sitting down on the couch and telling myself like, okay, I'm gonna quit. I need help, And I remember having this conversation with who I thought God was at the time. Even in those moments, we still bargained because I was sitting there and I needed this, and I was like, I can't do it now. I can't go to treatment now. It's like because Christmas is coming and my kid, and man, something happened to me that I still can't explain. Something told me in that moment, follow my higher power. Maybe it was alcohol. I don't know. I'd like to believe now it's my higher power who I choose, to call my higher power. And it was like, you won't be here next Christmas. And I truly don't think I would have made it till next Christmas. I've never got to see my kids open their gift. And I went back and forth for a while on the couch crying, and it's just weird, man. How you get to all these low points in your life, and then for that moment, like I really did truly want it. Like my
Amen.
heart wanted it. I had wanted it so many times, but like my heart wanted it in that moment. And I picked up the phone and I said, I still believe is the most three important words I've ever said in my life is I need help.
And you know,
I mean, that was the most important words I've ever said in my life. And to this day, they're still the most important word. And from then, you know, God started working in my life, where phone calls were made and people got together and rallied together. And by the next day, I was in an amazing treatment center. Actually, at that time, I think actually Chris Herron actually owned or is a owner of that treatment center. It was a place called Victory in Lafayette, Louisiana. And I was tripped out about going to Lafayette again because that's where the doctors were and that's where I was doing a lot of that. And I walked in there and completely surrendered, man.
amen.
I think it was like the first time in my life that I was just like, do what you want with me. And I took every fucking suggestion. I tell people that now, like, I want to quit. I want to help. Need help. And I'm like, you got to go. You got to want it. You got to want the world. I do it for you. You got to take every suggestion, even the ones you don't want to take, even the ones you don't like.
Well, Hick, I got to tell you, I thank you for being so vulnerable and so raw and real with your story, because I feel your emotion. Like I've had to hold back some tears a couple of times right now when you're talking, because I really feel you. And the first 15 minutes of you talking right now, the one thing that my God said to me in my head, what I heard is, I call it the spirit talking, is, when did you start healing? Like, because you've healed on, you've done a lot. I can tell that you've done a lot of work on yourself, but internally, when did the healing with mom and dad? Because I believe we're all trauma survivors of some sort, right? Wait, hold on. I believe we're all trauma survivors of some sort. I also believe some of us didn't get coping skills, or we lost some along the way. Therefore, I only saw what I knew is what I saw. And it sounds like the same thing for you. But there's a healing that came to this. And when did that happen? Because a lot of people are like, okay, so I'm not drinking and using, but I still feel shitty, and it's like, okay, you got to heal.
Did you use the steps? Did you use outside therapy? Did you use a bunch of shit? I mean,
was it a tree? What was it that changed? When did you start that?
So, like, I'm still healing. I will be forever healing. I think that I'll heal until the day that I close my eyes and I stop breathing on this earth. I think the true healing really started is when I went into treatment and I really started to look at who I was. So, number one is I really looked at who I was. I really looked at what I had done. I really looked at what part I played in that. So the steps were a big factor in my sobriety, and still are to this day. I don't attend traditional Alcoholics Anonymous meetings anymore like I used to. But I did, I'm a drug addict and alcoholic. I remember them, I said I took every suggestion that they gave me. They were like 90 meetings, 90 days. No, fuck that. Like, I'm an alcoholic, like, I'm going to do more.
Yeah,
so I did
that was
more.
me.
Because I'm an overachiever, like, I'm going to do more. Like, so, and they set a great foundation in my life for, sobriety. So it was a lot of things. It was a lot of different people that came in and out of my life that shared their strength, hope, and courage with me. Believe it or not, YouTube, a lot of things that he writes on Facebook, a lot of things that I see you post, you have helped me heal. So I believe that we heal from a lot of different things. But I believe it really started when I sat down and I admitted that I was an alcoholic and a drug addict. And I think it really started when I realized that I was the problem. I think it really started when I started to love myself again, enough not to drink and do drugs. So I can never pinpoint exactly where I started to heal. I think that we just continually heal and we continually grow, and shit happens in our lives.
I agree.
Even when bad shit happens, and
trust
we
me, I know
how we have the tools and the coping mechanisms, to do that.
So I love, and it's true. And you said something, I think, when you started loving yourself by not, because I'm like, people are like, love yourself more. I'm like, I'm 15 plus years sober. I'm like, how the fuck do I do that? What do you mean? Right? What you meant, what you said was, I started loving myself more by not drinking and using and following directions. I mean, you literally said those
Got
words.
out of your own way.
And it's true. And there's many different layers, and there's many different, every year has been so different for me.
But you're right too, because it's different things that people add into their recovery.
Yeah, like I'm going through some stuff now, and it's a new phase in my life, right? Physically, like doctor wise. And I'm like, I said to him, I'm like, okay, I'm in acceptance and I have you and I can get through this, but how do I acknowledge, how do I allow it to process into my life, right? And it's more acceptance, and it's like doing the right, whatever. So my point to that is, it's just following the things, and you'll feel it in your soul. Like you'll feel that it feels right doing it. And then all of a sudden you're doing this thing, and then you become an actor, and now you're like writing the most profound things that gets me through my days. As I told you.
How did that shift happen?
How did the acting and you finding your voice and your spirit to come alive, to transit on social media, like of all things?
When did the acting start?
So it all kind of started from the beard, actually. So the beard, actually, they asked me to, when I left treatment, they're like, why don't you, grow a plant? Like, see if you could take care of something like a plant, And I was like, oh man, like, I'll probably grow some weed or some shit. So like, I'll just grow a beard, right? So I grew a beard, and the beard kind of gave me a certain look. And I was in this, I'm in this big organization called Bearded Villains, which was started out in California, and y'all in. That's when I was in LA like 2 years ago for an event there, and a big charity event we had at the Avalon in Hollywood. And we had this big event there, a big beard competition, and so I got kind of involved in that. And but I so that was a thing for me, is just staying out self, doing the charity thing. And then the quotes, the stuff I put on Facebook every day was kind of just staying out myself. I was like, what can I do to just stay out of me? And number one, I knew I was going to be very vulnerable, and I knew I was going to be an open book. There's no use in hiding our stories in rooms.
Yep.
There's no use. Like this right here, I think is what this type of thing that y'all do, this show, is what people like me and people like who are out there who are struggling, people who are not, if the access is so much better, like what y'all do. It's out there, it's people sharing their strength, hope, and courage, and their story. So I said, this is a way for me to put myself out there to where people don't feel alone, because I remember feeling so alone. So I encourage sharing whatever's on my mind, or if I pick up bits and pieces from here or there, wherever it comes from, it's out there. People have access to it. You don't know what people are going through.
Yeah.
I've been rewarded so kindly in the past 5 or 6 years that I've been doing it, that people reaching out, and you don't know who you touch, you don't know, and sometimes they just done for me. There's some shit I'm feeling, man. Like that's some shit I'm going through.
Yeah, no, I hear you.
The other day, it's just like it hit me, and not too many people hit me. Not too many people like stand out and they and grab me, but so it's kind of like doing that. I was on the receiving end with him. There were some things you've done that I've been on the receiving end of that. The acting thing was back in 2018. I was asked a question of those anything that drugs and alcohol had stopped me from doing. Now there was millions of things that stopped me from being a good father. It stopped me from being just a fucking decent human being. But any personal goals that I had, and I was like, yeah, acting. And it's weird, man, because it's crazy how like my God works. Is like 2 weeks later, someone called me up, and she's a girl that does makeup, and she's like, look, there's this horror independent film that they're doing. I didn't even know I didn't know anything about the film industry like that. And they need a homeless guy. I'm like, well, shit, I can do that. I was like, I was homeless. I look like a homeless guy. So I went, and it was, I don't know if either one of you can relate, just because both of you are in front of the camera and both of you have done this for a living. Is once you're on that set and you feel that, and you I didn't know shit about acting, right? I didn't know nothing about acting. I just had to look cool, right? I was just doing background. I was a background person. I just had to look cool. So I kind of got attracted to that. I kind of got attracted to that. And not long after that, while I was on set that day, this guy that was shooting me was like, man, you really look good on camera. And he was like this older guy, and I was like, yeah, it's kind of creepy, but he's like, let me get some pictures of you, and you got to go and put your, make a profile and do this and this and that. So that kind of started background like doing background work, and I really loved it because what I did was I kind of sat back and just soaked in everything.
Yeah.
Is where I figured out like what an AD did and what this person did and what that person did and what this was and what that was, and I kind of I did like some NCIS, and then that moved on to featured roles, and then it moved on to like a speaking role, like in Your Honor, So, but when I was doing Antebellum, I was approached by someone on that set, and they were like, "So, like, how long are you gonna do this?" And I'm like, and I won't say who it is, but I kind of look up to this person, and I was like, I don't know. I was like, I think we filmed until like I was real nervous, and like, no, like, how long are you gonna do this featured stuff for? Like, don't you think that you should like, go and study the craft of acting?
Mm.
And I really had never thought about it, because I knew I loved it, I knew I wanted to do it, and I went to study under a guy named Jim Gleason, and he was an amazing teacher, and I started working with a lot of other actors, and I've tried to take some of Jeremy London's classes because he actually lives not far from me. He's a great guy. We got to be cool Facebook friends, and he has these Zoom, but I've never got a chance to take it. And so I learned how to audition.
Mm-hmm.
I learned what I should do and not do for auditions. And that was kind of it. Networking was so important in that because I met so many people that had a lot of opportunities for me. And a lot of other actors who took the time out to say, okay, this is what you need to work on. This is what we're trying to do. This is trying to audition, and these are where. And then I, started learning how to break scripts down, and it kind of just took off from there. And when COVID hit, I was still doing a lot of featured work, and then my name kind of got hot in the independent community here in Louisiana, Mississippi, in this region. And man, people are like, I really want you to audition for this. Can you try this? Can you audition for that? Can you audition for this? So I came to a turning point to where, okay, like, do I up the ante, right? Because I hold a full-time oil field job. I work for a company who's been in business since the 40s, and I supply different assets for companies like Shell Oil and stuff.
Sure.
So it's a full-time job, and they have really good benefits. And it got to a point to where it's like, okay, should I try to go union? But like my benefits with the oil field are really good, and I got 2 kids, and I have, so I'm really content with doing independent work right now. I have financial responsibilities to my children for the next couple of years, and it's really something I'm thinking about stepping back, because I do have agencies that are interested in me. I do have opportunities that are lying ahead of me, and right now I'm kind of enjoying doing it at my own pace and doing it.
That's Hick. That's a great position to be in, because our agent and our manager and all this. Who was I talking with the other day? Tom Sizemore. Tom's a good friend of ours, but he was explaining. He said, Tim, I would have never thought that I can go into my room, flip on a ring light, audition for a part, read a script, do training all over my computer and my phone.
It's mind blowing. Like I used to believe who I was what I did, right, for a living. That's what the modeling world taught me, and then the acting world, and I knew that feeling that you talked about when you were on set. Like I'll never forget when I was trying to figure out for modeling. One of the jobs I did in modeling when I got discovered was with a documentary on a musician by the name of Chet Baker called Let's Get Lost. It was nominated for Best Documentary. I didn't know my first movie was nominated for an Oscar. Like, what? It was crazy, but I didn't know that till years later. And people were like, how do you not know? I was like, I was busy modeling, but I knew that I wanted to end modeling because it was going to kill me. So I knew in my heart that being in part of a creative aspect, a creative team, was like what I wanted. And I wanted to be in front of the camera. And I knew acting was it, from having my voice somewhat matter by acting. And when I was on set, every time, even when my friends would shoot, you know, I'd go on set and I'm like, oh my God, like I'm sitting next to Martin Scorsese in Rome while my girlfriend Cameron's shooting Gangs of New York, and Daniel Day-Lewis and Leo are there. And I'm like, holy crap, like looking at, you know, but I loved the whole cinematic aspect of it. And I just kept getting fed, but I did study. One thing I did do is I studied for like 10 years, like 8 hours a day, like in class. Like, I mean, I did it a lot. And I love that. And I always feel that now being sober, you know, when I got sober, I was like, well, I called that a chapter in my life. But then people said, you know what? I bet you're going to start acting and you're going to have more depth and weight and you're going to be better at it. And I'm like, what? There's no way. There's so much more depth and weight to who we are because we're so connected, right? We feel every feeling. We have no other excuse but to have to feel a feeling that I can now perform, and I can A, make fun of myself, B, I can become somebody else, like through my experience, you know, and there's so many layers to this. It's like this beautiful, like just
It is.
like beautiful Amazon of different like flowers and colors and visuals, and there's so much
Okay, you're
beauty
going a
to
little
it.
deep.
No,
And
I know.
Amazon,
But
what's a beautiful
just
Amazon? Like the rainforest?
Yes, like the rainforest. You look at all the layers of things. And
Honey, my rainforest is waking up to you every day. And I go, fuck, I'm in the Amazon.
But you know, like you talking about these layers. I did this. I didn't realize the power that I had from the trauma that I've experienced. You know, and I think this is where you may be getting at is I did this exercise. You might be familiar with this exercise, and it's where you have two people and you have these random scripts that are on the floor, and then you have this questions asked to you. It's like, if there's anything you ever wanted to tell or anything you have to say to a person, and this is your one opportunity to say to this person, you need to say it with the words of the script that's on the floor, right? Because it shows you that words aren't important. That this is like you acting, this is your emotion, this is what you're projecting. And I remember when I first did that exercise, and it was a couple years back. You know me, I had to go all out. So like in my head, because nobody knows what you're trying to say, right? And I was like, you know what? I want to ask my mom like why she couldn't get sober. By then, my mom had passed. You know, so I pick up the script, and I remember the young woman in front of me was she was an opera singer, a professional opera singer, and she wanted to like hone her skills in acting a little more. So she was doing the class and be surrounded by all these people, you know, these classes are like, and these exercises are like. And I pulled some shit from places that I didn't know I had. And I'm so glad that happened that day. It's because I realized that day that, you know, that trauma we have or we've experienced, it never goes away. We always remember how it made us feel, right? We never forget that. And I truly believe that we put those in places once we've accepted it, once we've really understood it, once we've seen what part we had to play in it, once we've forgiven the other side and forgiven ourselves, that trauma's still always there, and we're able to utilize it at our own beck and call.
Absolutely.
And that's one thing I learned is that that's always there, and I never forgot how it made me feel. So I'm able to pull that trauma and use it, and I'm able to wrap it right back up in the neat little package that I put it in after I've accepted it and dealt with it the best I could, and put it back where it goes, so where it doesn't affect my everyday life and my life choices and my relationships and, you know, my children, you know, girlfriend or whatever. So I truly believe that this trauma that we've been through, this addiction and how we got sober and what we looked at in getting sober, truly makes us better at our craft. I really do.
100%.
You go, then I have a question I want to ask him.
Who's the blonde beauty in all your photos? I'm dying to know.
Who's the blonde?
Yeah. Is that your girlfriend or is that your daughter?
That's my girlfriend.
That's what I thought. Okay.
Isn't she gorgeous?
Beautiful.
Drop dead stunner, like goddess. I love how much you guys love each other.
Thank you. She's absolutely amazing.
She's beautiful, beautiful.
I think the way, I got to go back to the way you just phrased the trauma, the experiences, working through them, making amends, cleaning our side of the street. But as an actor or actress, you can pull into that to morph into that character and shed the tears or the pain because it's real, because you're experiencing it. But then you can close that box and put it on the shelf and move on to the oil rigs or being a dad or a husband or whatever. But I want to ask you a question. your father passed away recently, and
Yeah.
and your father was your hero. I can hear that by the way
Yeah.
you talk. How is it different having your father pass away, that you were 7+ years clean and sober versus being in active addiction?
I'm glad you brought that up, because it was something I was thinking about before we actually started this interview. We still go through and have bad shit happen, like in sobriety, like we do. We handle it differently, because we have the tools to handle that. Since my sobriety, I've been through. I was in a divorce. Also, I was with someone who um, wasn't so supportive of the sobriety. I lost my grandmother. I lost my father. So we still have shit that happens in this world, right? Like they'll say, oh, nothing in God's world happens by mistake, but in man's world, there's a lot of terrible shit that happens, and it's things that we have to deal with every day. So how it was different? Well, I didn't get fucked up.
Amen.
I was able. It's amazing when we're of sober mind and hearts. Jen was touching on it earlier. Oh shit, I just called you Jen. Is it cool? I call you Jen.
I
That's
love
fine. Go
Jen. I
ahead.
love Jen.
Just don't call her late for dinner, Hick, and we're okay.
I've been called worse.
You were talking about the healing part. Isn't it so much easier for us to heal
Yep.
in sobriety?
Sure is.
It's easier for us to accept, and so yes, I miss my father terribly. I think about him every day. The other day I ran across something, and I picked up the phone and like started dialing number, and I realized that I was like, what am I doing?
I'm so sorry.
But when he passed, I was able to accept that. I was able to accept that he was sick. I was able to accept that it was nothing that I could control, and I was able to accept that. I was able to understand maybe that it's okay for me to grieve, and it's okay for me to grieve in my own time. So I took it kind of like I take everything else, and that's because of sobriety. I take things day by day. Sometimes I still take them minute by minute. Sometimes I still take them second by second. No matter how, I mean, you guys know it with your combined time of recovery that, we don't ever just say like we're fucking cured and everything's okay and everything's going to be great, because it's not. Life is still out there. Things are still happening, and we're still going to be sad, and we're still going to get depressed at times, and we're still going to cry, and we're still going to be hard on ourselves. We're still sometimes going to let ego and pride get in our way, and thank God we're surrounded by people who call us out on that shit.
Amen.
Look, you married y'all to each other. I'm sure y'all can see that shit from a mile away coming with each other, right? So that's such a blessing. How was it different? Is I'm talking to y'all right now.
And you were present. You were
Yeah,
present and you were there.
for the
I mean,
experience.
that's
and we talked earlier. I felt it all.
yeah.
I mean, I think that I hope that you do know that you have the ability to move mountains, and you are moving mountains, and your career is going to go very far, very, very far. I mean, it's already going far. I mean, hell, you're working with Bryan Cranston, for crying out loud, one of my favorites of all time. But you're cool. Also doing the deed, and you're one of the warriors that we need, and we hold on to people like you, and I'm so grateful for you. I cannot tell you when I say to you that I've looked through all your sayings and what you write, and that it's literally gotten me through some pretty dark times recently with things that are happening to me, and you've given me hope, so thank you.
Keep doing and keep shining. Hick, how can people that are listening find you on social media if they want to follow you? What's the best way for them to reach out to you?
They can find me on Instagram as Hick Cheramie _actor. They can find me on Facebook, Hick Cheramie. I'm pretty open to following people, and especially like-minded people, and sometimes unlike-minded people, because sometimes that's when we get our best perspective of things, is when we see in something that we just don't see. So I'm open to making friends with anyone. You can follow me on both of those platforms of social media. And you can go and I'm going to plug my IMDb. You can look up my IMDb, of course.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, keep an eye out for Hick because he's definitely going to have some
Spell
big
his
things.
last name, please.
You
CH.
spell it's HickCheramie, actor. That's how you can find him on
Underscore
Instagram.
actor, yes.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm putting it this way. Type in Hick Cheramie, and so funny story is I'm Hick Cheramie the fourth.
Damn.
Wow.
My son is named Lennon Rowe. I cut that shit out. But
I put a stop to it.
Back in the old French, it was pronounced Hick, and they spelled it Hick. So that was before the whole, mountain term of Hick came along. But yeah, my dad was a third, and had junior and senior and stuff. So most of my life, people who know me called me Skip.
Ah.
Skip it is.
I tell you, my email was Skip Cheramie, and
I love that.
I never went by the name Hick ever. When I got into acting, it was suggested to me. They were like, "You really should go by that name because it's not a common name, and it's much better than Skip." And I'm like, I don't see how. And for some reason I went with it, and it's kind of stuck with me. So my grandmother would be so proud. God rest her soul. She'd be so proud that Hick is being like is places. She's been places now.
Awesome.
Well, we thank you so much for taking the time to be on our show. We definitely want you to come back. I adore you, and your girl is gorgeous.
And
I have
hopefully
a crush on her.
Hopefully our paths will cross soon. We'll
Yes.
either be in the bayou or you'll be out in LA, and let's get together. Again, thank you, Hick. Thank you, Lux Media.
Thank you. And
if
everyone who's out there listening.
And if you want to reach out, dopetohope.com. That's our website, and you can find us. For the Tim and Jen show, for Hick, Tim and Jen, we're signing off. Have a great day. Thank you.
Bye, guys.
We want to talk to you about Clean Cause, better caffeine. What's in the can? Our organic, sparkling Herba Mate is a premium pick-me-up that won't let you down. Every can of Clean Cause contains 160 milligrams of better caffeine, and each sip supports recovery from alcohol and drug addiction. 50% of the profits go to assist people into sober living. Check out cleancause.com.
Seaside Palm Beach is an executive luxury addiction treatment center located in Palm Beach, Florida. Our private clients come from all over the world, including business executives, professional athletes, celebrities, and more. Seaside Palm Beach offers first-class amenities and high-end accommodations, including a gourmet culinary experience, ocean views, pet-friendly facilities, and access to cell phones and laptops during your stay. If you or a loved one are struggling with addiction, please call us at 877-959-5053. Again, that number is 877-959-5053.
Now, glutathione is a big word, but it's the body's own master antioxidant. So it's a scavenger for free radicals, for bacteria, and what's relevant now, viruses. This is new to the marketplace. There's no other product on the market that has the ingredient NACET.
And basically NACET increases the production of that glutathione that is in our body already to strengthen and enhance our immune system and keep it strong. Elevated sense of well-being. Supports muscle strength and endurance. Cognitive function. Powerful liver support. Energy. Helps blood sugar regulation. Superior bioavailability of key ingredients.
One of your best defenses against COVID is a strong immune system. Taking GSH Plus as a daily supplement does all that. And now we have the product out on the marketplace.